So let's move over to the other side, because actually, kind of, for me, the two have been running parallel side by side the whole way through. So like, as hard and as painful as it's been, there's also been so much positive. Like inside, I feel at peace still. Like,
okay, wait, we'll come to that. We'll come to that.
Is that not
So,
the
pause. Really quickly, just to help those who let's just say there's some believers that are listening that want to make the journey more positive for their loved ones. In what ways did church leaders or members or even family members make your transition more difficult? What should people not do, in other words, based on your experience?
Okay, so for me, I probably did things a bit differently. I kind of kept everything to myself till my decision was made, and then I let people know. So I didn't kind of have that process of talking to the bishop and, you know, going through things and have questions answered and all that sort of stuff. I didn't really do that. I decided to, I told him when I was done, when I was all out, and then I declined to meet with him thereafter. So I haven't had any kind of negative experiences. Paul did go in and meet with the bishop. But for me personally, at that time, it was just too traumatic. There's just no, I couldn't have put myself through it. I kind of was dealing with talking to family, and that was emotionally draining as it was. And so when the bishop invited me in to talk to him, which I kind of decided for the first time in my life, I was going to say no to a church leader. And I was going to say, respectfully decline that invitation. And the same when the member of the stake presidency invited me in, I said, I think he wanted to come to our house actually. He asked if he could come round, and I just said, you know, in order for us, because these are people that are actually kind of my peers, they're people that I've grown up with that are my age, that I've known kind of my whole life. And so I kind of said, in order to maintain relationships with these people as, I say friends, but obviously I don't know kind of how deep those friendships, you know, are going to continue anyway, but kind of to maintain those relationships, I said that I would rather not. Just because to me there was no point. There were no questions that I needed answering, and why put myself through the trauma of speaking about those things. So
what I'm hearing you saying is you kind of put up some firm boundaries with church leaders and members right at the beginning, basically saying, I want space, I want distance, and that helped them maybe not make things harder for you in certain ways, just by creating those boundaries up front.
Yeah, and we said from day one, we didn't want to be, you know, subject of ward council meetings. We kind of said straight away, we didn't want our home teachers coming round. We didn't want to become a project because our decision was made. And it wasn't going to serve anybody. So we just said that we didn't really feel the need for that. I think it's not something we do in the church. We don't say no to things. We accept every calling. We accept every assignment. We do everything we're asked to do. And for the first time in my life, I was going to do it kind of out of respect for him. I was going to say, okay, I'll go, which is what Paul did. Paul kind of said he felt like he owed it to him to go in and speak to him. And I kind of thought, I didn't feel like I owed it to anybody to kind of go through that. I kind of felt like if it wasn't gonna do any good for anybody, so it was okay to actually say no, which is what I did.
So sometimes people complain about people not, coming to ask you about what happened, or not, not showing interest, the way that people just disappear. That wasn't a problem for you. You kind of wanted the space, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, when I decided that I was gonna, that I was final, that I was gonna leave, I kind of contacted my friends. I kind of thought, who are the friends in church that I care, that I want to have a relationship with, and I contacted them. But I didn't feel the need to kind of go beyond the wider network of membership. I didn't feel the need to explain myself to them, or I think it became pretty clear pretty quickly, because 1 week we're always there and the next we're not. I still bump into my home teacher out and about every now and then. He was my home teacher, and to be honest, the first time I bumped into him, I walked away in tears, because he was so nice to me, and he was saying, Whitewall, when are you coming back? And And I just felt like I wanted to say to him, if I could come back, I'd come. Like, that's kind of how I felt at the time. Like, if there was a space for me there, if I could go, then I'd love to be there. But anyway, there isn't. And so yeah, but no, I kind of spoke to those that I cared enough about to maintain a relationship with, and left it with everyone else.
Okay, so no requests of what not to do other than what you've said so far?
What not to do. I've had one friend that asked me why I left. And she asked me and she asked me and she asked me, and she really wanted the answer. And she said, and so I regret sending her what I told. Well, I said.
No, I mean, what not to do for other people.
Oh, right. So members of the church.
Yeah.
I guess there's no harm in getting in touch with people. If your relationship's real and genuine and sincere, then it's okay to get in contact with people. But nobody wants a message from everybody in the ward that's not really that. If you've not messaged them and been in touch with them anyway, then yeah, I don't think. Okay. I think just be real. If you've got a real relationship with somebody, then get in touch. And if you haven't, then maybe not. Like, I don't think anybody likes the sort of round robin messages that, that have been kind of asked, can everyone message this person because they're not with us this week? I don't think they don't do anything for anybody. And we know how it works. We know that's what happens. So they kind of serve no purpose. So I just think, like, just be real and do what, like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
No one wants to be a project.
No, and I've received, like, talks from people, like from members of the family have sent me talks and things, and I've got no problem with that because I've been where they've been and I understand where they are, and so I'm not offended when members of the family. I'm happy for members of the family to kind of try and speak to me and to kind of do their bit, because I understand how they feel and where they're coming from, and provided they're happy for me to respond and be honest in return ish, then I'm okay with that. Does that make sense?
Sure. Okay. So the next question is, were there church leaders or members who were helpful to you? And if so, how were they helpful?
Yeah, like since leaving. I don't think,
or in the process of leaving.
I think we were treated well. I think we were respected, and what we asked for was done, I would say. So
they respected your boundaries, it sounds like.
I think so, because there's not been a whole world of contact, but I think there's a difference between people that are kind of teetering on the edge and those that have done the research that we've done and have made that decision. I kind of feel like they know that we're kind of a lost cause in that respect, maybe. And I think we then become dangerous, I suppose. So I guess they're kind of happy to let us go. I think that's the reality.
Yeah.
I think there's been a little bit of gossip here and there. There's been a little bit of things that I think has come from bishoprics to family members to other family members, and that's not good, but it happens.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. What resources were most helpful in your transition out of Mormonism for you? So what were, if you had to tell people, here's some resources that really helped me, what would those resources be?
Okay. So do you want me to also go into kind of that? So, like, obviously I've done a lot of studying and reading. So are we talking about those things, or just kind
of everything? Like, so there's resources to learn, there's resources to cope, there's resources to find community, there's resources to learn tips and tricks, there's new forms of spirituality. Anything's fair game. But just like, if you think back on, wow, what really helped me through this? What were the things that really helped you through? You don't have to make it comprehensive. Just pick the big ones.
So in terms of, I kind of haven't really done all that much yet. It's still kind of early for me. So my main kind of resource has been the podcasts. I've probably listened to interviews every day for the last, 6-7 months, kind of non-stop, like constant interviews, kind of, because I don't think people
Which podcasts, real quick?
Okay, my favorite podcasts.
Yeah, which ones?
Like, so just Mormon Stories.
Oh, okay. Say that again. Mormon Stories what?
Yeah, no, Mormon Stories. I was wondering whether you were asking me which actual interviews.
Oh, yeah. If there were some big ones, you could mention those.
Oh, there are, definitely. So for me, the first, Donna Showalter was like my kind of big one, my first that I just loved. And then thereafter I listened to the Youngs.
Cody and Leah and Brindley Young.
Yeah, they're obviously like huge. I'm sure everyone's kind of watched those. If you haven't, you need to. But thereafter, I've kind of gone through the top 25 and then asked people for recommendation. I've listened to all the kind of big main ones, but I think they really help. Like, without them, I absolutely would have gone insane. I would have gone crazy. I would have thought that I was going crazy without listening to other people's experiences and hearing that other people have gone through this too. I would have, I would have gone mental, because it's just so hard to get your head round. But kind of, you listen to a podcast, you listen to an interview with somebody, and by the end of that interview, you feel like you know that person. You feel like they're your new friend, even though they don't know you. You've never met them. You feel like you know them, and it just really, really helps, because it really helps to kind of, you can relate to something in everyone's story, I think. So they've been really, really important, really, really helpful. And I kind of went through a phase where I thought I'd kind of give it a rest and move on, but no, it kind of didn't happen, and I kind of got back into it again. So every now and then I think, I might just kind of leave it now and move on to something, but no, I kind of go back to it because I still really enjoy them.
Yeah, so listen to podcasts is your advice. Any other resources?
No,
you mentioned CES letter to help you learn.
It really helped me to kind of, I read the CES letter, then I read Letter for My Wife, I listened to The Year of Polygamy. Kind of all those things just really helped me to kind of know that, what I reaffirmed what I do know. I know I'm doing the right thing. Like, I know that, because it's hard. Like, if you've been brought up in something your whole life, you really feel like, are you being deceived? Am I part of that prophecy of, people falling away? And am I being foolish? And, I've seen people fall away, and I know what I've thought about kind of why they might have fallen away or what happened to them. Or so kind of to keep doing that study, pushing through, kind of doing, and I've read like loads, you read into all the kind of the details of Joseph Smith's life and on all that sort of stuff. And it kind of really helped me to feel that content with my decision, I suppose.
Were there books, big main books that were helpful?
Do you know, I've not read them. I've not read like books. I want to. I keep saying, and we keep meaning to order them, but I
that's
haven't.
Fine.
Like, I do want to read, like, No Man Knows My History and
sure.
What's the other one?
All in due time. You're still in your first year.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question is, what significant mistakes did you make in your transition? If you made any, what mistakes would you recommend people avoid?
So I decided early on that I wasn't going to share any of this stuff with anybody. And I kind of have stuck to that, I think, by and large.
Just keeping it private.
Yeah, ish. Like, the information's out there. So if people ask, it's out there. Go and look for it. I don't need to kind of be the one that gives it you, is kind of the way I feel. Because, like, that's what I was going to say before. I did have one friend that asked, and she said she doesn't have time to do all the research. She just wants me to, in a nutshell, tell her what it is. And I was like, I didn't feel comfortable with it. I certainly wasn't going to send her the CES letter. So I decided the Letter for My Wife was kind of a bit softer and a bit kind of gentler, more gentle. But I regretted it, because she had a night of torment and then decided to put it away and ignore it and carry on as she was. And it kind of, in that night, broke her heart, broke my heart. It was just horrific. And so I won't do that again. I felt like she asked and asked, and so I felt kind of that I should, but I wouldn't do that again. The information is out there, and if people want to find it, then they can find it. I kind of don't want to be the one that sends it to them.
So don't be people's educator.
I mean, I don't necessarily feel like it's wrong to do. I don't know. I just decided that I didn't want that to be me. I don't know.
It's not about wrong. It's just about useful or helpful or valuable.
Yeah, I just don't want to be responsible for someone else's faith crisis, I suppose.
Yeah, that's good. That's your view.
Having said that, I would say that I'm not kind of, I'm quite vocal in some things, like, which people might disagree with. But if I see posts, I have been, I've not put anything on Facebook of my own posts, but I will comment if I see things and on other people's posts. Not like, to me, I don't feel like it's kind of, it's more a case of telling people. You get a lot of posts about why people leave the church, and that's the thing that's my bugbear. I can't bear people talking about why people leave and getting it wrong. That's kind of what I kind of feel like. I feel like I've been on the receiving end of that judgment. So when people kind of suppose they know why people might leave the church, I kind of like to maybe put them right and correct them. And I don't know whether that's right or okay or good to do or not, but I kind of feel like, as much as I kind of try and censor what I say, I refuse to be completely silenced. I refuse to be completely voiceless in everything. And yeah, like that's kind of, I think that's kind of the sort of feeling of integrity in me, that I kind of feel like some things I have to speak out about. But yeah, I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm some activist, but I kind of, there are some things that I feel like I should speak out about, and I kind of don't feel like that's wrong to do so, even though some people aren't comfortable with it and don't like it. I probably wish that I wouldn't, but that's kind of how I feel.
Okay. Any other mistakes?
No, I don't think. I'm not saying that I got it all right, but I don't have any kind of regrets
right now.
Initially, I felt like I did it all too quick. Initially, I felt like I should have slowed down. But now, as I look back, I don't feel like I did that wrong. Initially, I kind of thought maybe I should have just, kind of gone down the progressive route for a little while and kind of seen if I could have done that. But the reality is, I don't think I could have done that. I've kind of done it in the only way that I feel like I healthily could do it. And so I don't have any real regrets with that. I wondered whether we told our children too soon. But again, I don't really regret that, because we're an open, honest family. So as soon as we had doubts, we told our older children that we had doubts. And that's not necessarily easy, but I don't particularly, I don't think you can go too far wrong with being honest. And that's kind of what we've tried to do.
I love it. Okay. Next question. How has your leaving Mormonism affected your family relationships, friendships, job, neighbor relationships, social life, etc.? So how has it affected the relationships with people in your life?
Okay, this is always going to be a tricky one, isn't it? Like, obviously in the UK, it doesn't affect it doesn't affect your work, and it doesn't affect, all the wider things, but it certainly does affect your family, and it affects, I wouldn't say it's affected my friendships, because my friends have been really, really good. The kind of few friends that I chose to speak to have been really, really super, super loving, super accepting. Like, my friends are the best Mormons I know, like the kindest, nicest, just no judgment, no, nothing like that. So I've been really, really lucky with the few friends that I have kind of, and I've not been super open with them. I've not told them lots. I respect that boundary, I suppose, and they're really faithful and good and believing, and I'm happy for them to remain that way. So, so we don't talk. I mean, we talk about personally, like my kind of struggles with it, like how difficult it is, but we don't talk about the reasons why. It hasn't affected that. Family is always going to be tricky. It's a work in progress. I knew leaving the church would come at a high price, and we try and minimize that as much as we possibly can. And I will continue to try and maintain relationships with my family that are active in the church. But it's tricky because I know that it's hard for them to kind of accept kind of how I've gone from being, fully active, endowed in the temple, kind of, a year or so ago I was primary president. How have I gone from that to this? And it's hard for them to come to terms with. So I guess I'm trying to be patient with them, and I'll try and, but yeah, it's tricky to say it's not affected relationships would be inaccurate. But I would say that I know my family love me, and I know that they are trying their best by and large, most of,
But it's strained relationships with family members.
I'd say it's just put a little bit of a distance. To be honest, I wouldn't necessarily say it's strained yet because no one's talking to me. Maybe if we had conversations, then there might be a strain. But at the moment, we've not had those conversations. So all there is potentially is a bit of distance here and there. Yeah, and I feel a little bit on the edge. I feel a little bit kind of uncomfortable, not sure whether, I don't know, maybe this isn't fair, but I kind of feel like I don't know how welcome I am at all family things, or kind of, yeah, and maybe that's just, maybe they haven't done anything for that. Maybe that's my kind of, just how I feel. It'd be unfair to say that they've made me feel that way. But I guess unless people talk to you, it's hard to feel okay. Like if people talk to you, then you'd know things are okay. But if people don't talk to you and you know that people are talking behind your back, it kind of doesn't give that kind of comfortable feeling. It's just tricky. But
do you mean they don't talk to you at all, or they don't talk to you about this stuff?
They do. No one's cut me off. No one's outrightly like cut me off or anything, but they just don't talk about these issues. So obviously, some have said, we love you no matter what, we're okay, it won't change anything. But I guess I just talk to them less maybe than I did before. Kind of don't feel maybe quite in the same circles. I guess like in the family, you've got the active and you've got the inactive, and I kind of feel like I've jumped from one ship to the other. So, my relationships with those that are inactive may have improved. I may be closer to them now, but it's kind of come at the price of kind of, and I don't want it to be that way really. I know it's kind of inevitable, but I'm hoping in time that will kind of repair itself a bit. And yeah, it's tricky.
And it's so hard to know how much of it's they're doing versus just what we do in our own minds with insecurities and conditioning and that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the problem is it's not just that you leave the church. It's like you leave and you become anti. That's what it's seen as. So, doing a podcast, that's seen as anti-Mormon. So now I'm viewed as, anti-Mormon. And we're warned so much against anti-Mormon that it's kind of it's a hard kind of label to carry. It's a hard, there's such a stigma attached to anything that's perceived as anti-Mormon. And I've, tried to say that doing a John DeLynn interview doesn't make you anti-Mormon, but I don't know who you are, but they know that, like no one, like it's not that they're kind of familiar with it, but this is the problem. If they familiarize themselves with it, they would understand that it's not what they think it is. Yeah, maybe.
Sure. That's hard. It's harder than it should be, but everyone's doing their best. That's what's complicated. Okay. So you've talked about this a bit, but how have you navigated communication and relationships with believing family and friends? Any tips on keeping those people in your life? You've kind of talked about this already. Any tips for people that are like, how do I handle my family and friends who are believers?
I mean, last time, so I said in the last interview, I think I said that initially I kind of said I didn't really want to talk about it too much, just because I didn't know how to talk. I didn't know how to how can you explain why you've left without dropping a bombshell on people? So it's a really, really tricky kind of conversation to have. So I kind of said I didn't really want to talk about it. And then a few months down the line, I kind of realized that people were making assumptions. And so I said, just ask me if you want to talk about it, I'm ready to talk. And a couple did message me a little bit here and there, but on the whole, there hasn't been any kind of real conversations. But I still see my family, and I still try and, continue to try. I haven't really got any great tips on that one.
Yeah, and it's tricky because the universal advice I give people is don't try and convert them, don't try and mess with their faith, make them feel safe, because otherwise you either drive them away or you create the backfire effect where they cling to their beliefs more, and you don't want to be proselyted to. So why would you want to be proselyting to others? So that's the general advice I give people.
It's just so funny because you want to burst. You found out all this stuff and you think, it. Do they not know this? And you it's so hard to keep a lid on that.
Yeah.
It is hard. Because you just want to say, do you know this? Like, did you know about this? Because some people do. They know a lot more than I knew. I knew nothing. But it turns out, I've got family members that have read Rough Stone Rolling and that sort of thing. So some of them know more than I knew. But you kind of just... you just want to know,
But there's a lot who don't know anything, and you feel like I wish I'd known this stuff earlier. So if I'm glad I know it now, they should want to know it too, right?
Yeah, it's a really hard balance because who knows who does and doesn't want to know. So I think for me personally, I feel like I found out at the right time for me. Like, I don't have any regrets being in the church for 34 years. I feel like those 34 years kind of made me who I am now, to the point where I'm ready to leave and move on. So for me, I kind of feel like it happened at the right time. So yeah, whether they do or don't hear things or read things, hopefully it'll happen at the right time for them, if it happens at all. But yeah, on the whole, I don't want to drag people away from the church. If the church is good for people, this is kind of what I want to say to people. If the church makes you a better person and makes you happy, I'm absolutely fine with that. If it doesn't, then that's when they need to maybe start looking and thinking about things. But if it makes them happy and makes them their best selves, then I'm fine with that.
Right. That's important. All right. Which, if any, of your former Mormon beliefs or behaviors have you retained after your faith crisis? So in your beliefs or behaviors, in what ways are you still kind of Mormon versus not? We'll talk about the not later, but how are you still Mormon in belief or behavior?
I mean, I think, I am Mormon. To my core, I am Mormon. That's how I feel. Inside, everything that I am kind of is a result of my Mormon upbringing, I guess. So the kind of core values that I had then, I still have now. I still believe in honesty and integrity and, service and being kind and all those sorts of things I still have. In terms of beliefs, it's always changing. I feel like whatever I say now may not be the case in a couple of weeks' time because it keeps evolving. But I would say that I still regard myself as Christian. I still kind of believe that there is a God, and I hope. I'd say it's now more of a hope and a faith than it was. Back then I knew things, and now I realise that I know so little. I know nothing about these things, but I hope there's a God, and I hope that that Jesus is who that I've always been led to believe he is, but I don't know it. It's kind of more of a hope and a faith. And the way I see it is that if you kind of follow that example, if you follow the Saviour's example and his teachings, that you can't go far wrong. So I'm quite happy to kind of continue to be, I guess, a kind of like a cultural Christian, I suppose. Like that's kind of my core values, and that's what I believe now. I don't believe that things are exactly as we've been taught. I don't necessarily believe, I don't necessarily know or believe that God is kind of who we've been taught he is, that he's, I don't know. But I definitely believe that there is something. We're here for a purpose, and I feel like continuing to be good Christians is a good thing to do. So that's kind of what I'm going to continue for the now. That's what I believe in, and that's how I'll continue to live.
What about behaviors?
Behaviors. What kind of behaviors are we talking about?
Are you? In what ways are you the same?
Most ways I would say I'm the same. I still. That's. I've just changed. So, yeah, I feel like I'm still the same. If you're asking about like word of wisdom and those sorts of things, those things aren't important to me anymore. I don't believe in that. That's what we have to do. So, I'm hard. So I have drank alcohol and I have drunk coffee because I don't see that there's any reason why I shouldn't, but they've not like become a big part of my life. I'm still ultimately the same person. A drink here or there, it doesn't alter kind of that much about me. It's not the scary, frightening thing that people in the church kind of maybe think or believe, and it's not kind of dragged me into some alcoholic mess.
Right. Yeah, most people are able to navigate that stuff just normally, like most people.
And I got a tattoo.
What?
Yeah. I was listening to the Lusk family interview the other day, and so they both talked about getting their tattoos. So I thought, I'm going to get that in there. I did. Now, the reason I have never wanted a tattoo, never in my life, never liked tattoos, never wanted a tattoo, never considered a tattoo. Like, to me, not having tattoos as a Mormon was not a problem. However, within about 2 weeks of leaving the church, I got a tattoo. So, but for me, they have a meaning. I got them for a reason, and I would say it's been like a really positive kind of therapeutic thing for me, if that makes any sort of sense. So, it kind of it's hard for me to explain. So it's referencing my miscarriage. So I felt like after years of kind of having this sort of shameful secret thing that kind of I had to keep as a secret, I kind of wanted something outward to kind of break that, if that makes any sense. So I think, when you have a miscarriage, it's hard. You have no photos, you have no memories, you have no gravestone, you have nothing. So I kind of really felt like I wanted to have something that would recognize that and mark it. And so, I got a tattoo.
Is it in a place that's visible to the public or private, not visible?
On my foot, but can people in the comments share photos? Because I can do it that way.
Sure. We can share a photo. We can share that later.
So if anybody I know is watching has got a photo, you can share it.
Okay.
So it's a little a heart with like a little branch. It's got 5 little birds on it, which are my 5 children. And then above those 5 birds, there's a little flying bird, which is my miscarried child. So it's really it's for me, and it's not like me kind of going crazy and going off the rails and rebelling. It's just a way for me to kind of so another funny story. So my eldest son, listened to my previous podcast the other night, and I got this tattoo over the summer. So he always assumed that the flying bird was me watching over him because he didn't know about the miscarriage. He didn't know anything about that. So he has since, listening to the podcast, learned about the miscarriage and then understood the meaning of the tattoo. And he really likes it now. Like, he liked it before, but he kind of keeps coming in and asking to see it again. And he really likes the significance of it. So that's been nice. It's been really nice for my son to listen to the podcast and kind of learn a little bit more about his mum, and it's like opened conversations for us, and that's been like a really positive, good thing for us, I'd say.
That's great. All right. in what ways have your beliefs or behaviors changed after your faith crisis? I think we've covered a little bit of that. Is there anything you want to add about new beliefs or things you've stopped believing or any of that sort of thing?
I think I've covered all I can think of to say for that one.
Okay. Next question is, what aspects of your life are better after Mormonism? So how is life better now than before?
Okay. So I definitely think through all the hard and the pain and all the hard stuff that's come with it, there's been, like, alongside that, there's been so much positive. I really feel like before Christmas, I went out with my sister-in-law for an evening, and we kind of sat and we were talking, and I was pretty much crying the whole time. And yet I wanted to say to her, but I'm actually happy. Like, I know it doesn't look like it. I know I'm emotional, and I know that, like, it looks like I'm a depressed mess, but actually inside I'm happy. Like, it's hard for people. I can't really explain or make sense of that as hard as it is and as sad as it has been, that actually still inside I feel happier despite all this. I feel kind of, I feel like I'm more myself now. I'm able to be, and I'm able to develop myself, and kind of, it's crazy. I didn't realize before how kind of suppressed I was as myself, how little I was living kind of my true self. And so I know that people in the church might listen to this and it kind of won't make sense to them, because you feel like you are yourself. But I just feel there's just something really different. Like, I feel kind of more, all the things that I was worried about leaving the church just are not true. Like, I was worried about that I would kind of, that I'd not be a good person anymore. And actually I feel more at peace with the person that I am now than I was before. Before, I felt like I always needed to do more, try harder, be better. And now I feel like I'm a good person. I feel really like, comfortable and content with that I know that I'm a good person, and that I know that I try my best and do good things and have good values. And so it actually has like been kind of freeing for me in that respect. I feel it's hard to explain. And I'm sure, like, it's still early days and that will continue to kind of happen. But yeah, like, I feel happy. It's also been really positive for me to be able to kind of let go of things that, some of the damaging things in the church that you can't make sense of. It's been easy for me to go, it's easier to just think they were wrong. Those things were not right. And it's been easier to move on from them in that respect. Kind of, it's kind of hard to think of an example in a way, but yeah, I don't need to kind of, you think you're happy in the church, and I guess you don't realize maybe how that there's happiness outside beyond what you're experiencing inside, because it's not what we're taught. We're taught that, like, true happiness can only be found in the church. And I'm finding that actually I feel just much happier. But it's still like, I've still got a long way to go in terms of, like, what direction my life's taking, in terms of building community and how I want to develop myself and all those things. I'm not there yet, but I am working towards them. And I think when I first read these questions and it was all like the thrive, I kind of was like, oh, I don't think I'm thriving yet. And I think I've realized that thriving is not what I thought it was. It wasn't like some end result, that it just means that you're kind of, on the path and continually kind of progressing and moving through things. And I definitely feel like I'm doing those. And we're only enduring in the church anyway. Like, we're always taught we're enduring. So I kind of feel like I'm no longer just enduring, but I'm now kind of striving and kind of, yeah, thriving, I would say. And I think it's definitely improved definitely improved my relationship with Paul. Our marriage is definitely better now. I used to worry about, that was one of my worries, like, without the church, kind of what would happen to our marriage. But what's been really, really amazing is how now we're both free to be our own individuals, and I no longer need to try and work on, I kind of always felt like I was trying to bring him onto my way of thinking, because I had better understanding of things. I knew the gospel more than he did, and I was always trying to persuade him to see things as I saw things. And now it's okay for us to both think different things. Like, it's okay for him to have his own opinions and his own beliefs. It's not a threat to me that he has those. Whereas before, I always saw it as like a bad thing and a threatening thing. And now we're both kind of free as individuals, and in doing that, it's kind of strengthened our marriage. We're just kind of a lot more ourselves and a lot more open, and brought us closer together, I think. And our relationship with our children has definitely improved. Like, we are much more open as a family, much more kind of just open dialogue, chatting with them, kind of just, I don't know, it's kind of broken down barriers that maybe before we were kind of more like their teachers, and they're, like now the relationship's just a bit more kind of, now we're more like mentors than teachers, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, we're more kind of, it's just definitely, I am looking forward to kind of the future and progressing through their teenage years, and kind of, it's all been positive in that respect, I would say.
Well, those are really important things, like authenticity, healthy marriage, healthy parenting. Those are pretty much three of the most important things that people value. So,
like, I want my children to like think for themselves. I want them to have their own opinions and their own beliefs and their own way of looking at things. And I don't want them to just be kind of an extension of me. I want them to kind of grow into themselves, and I'm absolutely okay with them disagreeing with me at certain things and having different opinions about things. And that's what I want for them. I want them to kind of be their own people. And I think that can happen easier now.
That's great. Congratulations. Okay. 2 more questions. What is your life still missing? In what ways could your life still be improved, now that you're out of Mormonism? So what's lacking? What's still hard, or what would you like to make better?
It's still early days. I'm kind of very, we're a long way off, kind of, if we ever get to the kind of end result of this, but it's still really early days. We are still kind of trying to build our community and find our network, and that's tricky. It's going to take time. I've not gone to any great lengths to kind of do that just yet. But I know that's something that going forward we kind of will need to do, or will be beneficial to us. And sorry, what was the next part of the question?
So what's missing? Is there anything that you feel like is missing, or that's not good, that you would want to make better?
No, I just think since leaving, I'm kind of looking more at myself and kind of what I want to do with my life. And, I've still got a baby at home, but once, she's a little bit older, I've looked at master's courses and different things that I can do. And, Paul's trying to move to Australia, so we're trying to kind of emigrate if we can, or we're just trying to do different things that we've kind of held back before, I think, a little bit. Whereas now I kind of feel like we're a bit more open and looking for kind of change, whereas before we weren't. So yeah, we've still got a way to go to kind of build that community that the church wants was for us, but it's early days, so we're being patient.
So right now you're not feeling some big gaping hole, you're feeling kind of at peace.
Yeah, I think I'm up and down. So sometimes I might feel that a bit more, Facebook, I'm going to see posts all the time of everyone getting together for Relief Society activities. And even if I didn't particularly even want to go to them before, I'm going to feel it a little bit when I see all my friends together. It's hard, but I guess I just have to make the effort to make the effort with the relationships that I do care about. It's up and down. Sometimes I do feel that kind of a little bit lost and a little bit like, I used to be busy before and I had so much going on, but I'm happy at the moment, I'm okay.
Good. I love it. Okay. Last question. You've been great. Last question. What final advice would you give folks who are transitioning? Is there anything left you want to kind of share or say? You've shared a lot, but is there any final wisdom you would like to impart to anyone who's going through a hard time?
Especially because I think I've covered a lot of it. I think just be patient. Like it takes time. It's hard. It's up and down. It's all over the place. But just kind of, yeah, like, I guess push through it. Like it gets better. Like it's hard and it can be scary, but actually once you push through that, it just does. It does get better. And just kind of, I guess you can only go by what you feel inside. So you have to kind of follow your instinct of what feels right. Because what else have we got? Like, I don't really think there kind of is anything else to go by. But just kind of, yeah, just be patient and just, I don't know. It's kind of a work in progress.
That's phenomenal advice. Patience is so key. It's so critical. So that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Sian, you're delightful. I'm so happy we finally got around to interviewing you in 2020. We've been wanting to do this for a while, and you did not disappoint at all. What a lovely person you are, and what a wise, what a bunch of wisdom that you've been able to share with us through your journey. I know it's going to help a lot of people.
I hope so. That's kind of, yeah, that's what it's about.
And I wish you luck with your family. I hope those relationships can heal and strengthen. And I'd love to have Paul on. So let's just put a pin in that. And I really appreciated that offer. And I think our listeners would love to hear a convert's perspective, like he joins the church and then leaves, and what's that like? So let's figure out how to do that in the future. And tell Paul thanks for keep holding down the fort while you've been so generous in your time with us.
Well, our baby sleeps pretty well, but last time I did an interview, she woke up just like tonight. She's woken up a couple of times. So, and yeah, I don't know why she's doing that, but Paul's dealt with her.
Well, we're setting you free.
Well, thank you.
And let's meet someday, Sian. That'd be fun for me to come to Wales and check it out, and or to have you guys come here. So let's find a way to meet in person.
Cool.
Oh, and to end, the most important part, a listener last time, or a viewer mentioned the name of the longest city, the longest word, which is the city with the longest name in the world, which happens to be in Wales. Do you want to go ahead and tell us the name of that city and pronounce it for us?
Not a city. This is like a tiny little village, and this village is like it's the neighbouring village to where I grew up. Funnily enough, on Anglesey. So you
actually know it by memory? Do you know it by heart?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's like it's literally 2 minutes away from where I grew up.
Okay, tell us the name of the city or the town.
It's not really known by this. The full name is Llanfair Pwll Gwyngyllgo Gerechwyndrabwy Llansilio Gogogoch. Just known as Llanfair or Llanfair PG for short.
And I asked you this at the beginning, but Welsh is its own language, right?
It is, yeah. I did all my schooling through Welsh, so all my education was done through Welsh.
So people in Wales talk to each other in Welsh.
Well, where we live it's not very Welsh, so my children don't speak fluent Welsh. But where I grew up, which is further along the coast, I was in the main street, kind of fluent main language Welsh. So I had to do, like, this is one thing that always baffles people. So I had to learn German and French through Welsh, which people can't get their head round. But yeah, I did all my schooling through Welsh. So to the point where when I went to university and met Paul, like, there are terms that I didn't know in English. So like mathematical terms or scientific terms that people learn in school growing up. I only know the Welsh words for those because my education was through Welsh.
That's so cool.
Funny, but yeah.
All right, Sian, you've been awesome. It's so nice. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing. And we hope to see you again soon. All right?
Thank you very much.
All right. Give our best to your family.
Will do. you. Thanks.
Thanks to everyone for joining us on Mormon Stories. It's been great. This has been a great interview. Really quickly, for those who are still tuned in, we do have our next Mormon Stories Faith Crisis Retreat with me and Natasha Elford Parker, February 21st and 22nd. You can go to mormonstories.org/events to register. Scholarships are available if you can't afford the registration fee. And then, of course, we have the Thrive Chicago event, April 21st and 22nd. You can go to mormonfaithcrisis.com/events. It's actually the 24th through the 26th. So Chicago Thrive, April 24th through 26th. If you're in the Midwest or want to experience another Thrive event, come meet us in Chicago, April 24th through 26th. And thanks to everyone for all your support. You guys are awesome. And Karis says to come to Wales. All right, Karis, I'm coming to Wales. And thanks to everyone who's joined us today on Facebook Live. We sure love having you guys there. So take care, everybody. Take care, Sean. And we'll see you guys all again soon on another episode of Mormon Stories Podcast. Take care.